The only effect, as Ed says rightly, it's having is basically to give the Tories another reason to kick the BBC, to talk about impartiality, to talk about scrapping the licence fee. It's a massive own goal, I think, for a prominent BBC pundit.
Ed Vaizey, what do you make of Gary Lineker and his, I was going to say constant interference, but I don't know if you see it that way.
Well, I mean, when this all blew up years ago, I took the view that free speech is important, and if you're not a BBC journalist or newsreader, where the public, I think, would expect to kind of not know what your opinions are, you're sort of royalty, if I can put it that way, because they want to know that you're reporting the news impartially. If you're doing another part of the BBC, if you're an actor or you're a sports presenter, then you should be free to voice your opinions. And I was reluctant to kind of go against Gary Lineker on that basis, even though I find him intensely annoying. But he should also reflect, and this is a point I've made before, that it really, really demoralises his colleagues in the BBC. They are assailed by the 5 right-wing factions of the Monty Python Conservative Party all the time, who are desperate to close them down. And they need Gary Lineker opining on government policy like they need a hole in the head. So I find it, from that perspective, unbelievably selfish, but unfortunately I have to defend his right to do it.
It's interesting though, because I wonder if some of those BBC employees, not all of them, but some of them actually might welcome it because maybe they agree with him and he can say it and they can't.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who do agree with him in the BBC because they're all human, they've all got their own opinions, but I really don't think the majority of them welcome him constantly bringing the BBC into the firing line of the right-wing press. I think they hate it.
It's interesting. Jane, what do you think?
I think maybe Gary Lineker wants to run for office. I can't see another reason why he would keep wanging on like this, to be honest. I've always loved Gary Lineker. And I too think the Rwanda scheme is bananas. But the only effect, as Ed says rightly, it's having is basically to give the Tories another reason to kick the BBC, to talk about impartiality, to talk about scrapping the licence fee. It's a massive own goal, I think, for a prominent BBC pundit. Also, maybe I'm just a bit grumpy this morning, but I'm also just, when has a letter from a bunch of actors and sports presenters ever helped shape policy? I mean, come on. At this point, it just looks like virtue signalling. Sorry.
Craig has tweeted that point. The criticism of Lineker so far is misplaced. We should be ridiculing him for signing yet another pointless celebrity letter.
Thank you. Very wise.
To back
yes.
your point there. We'll see what happens. Stay with us, both of you, Jane and Ed. We've got to chat Nigel Farage and work parties. Imagine if those two were combined.